and it had, millions category on the side, and the goal was 40, but it was at 32. And I said, to the Dallas Cowboys, basically, you got to be careful. Be careful. Because Dak, right now, Dak is definitely on his way to walking up to someone's office and said, look, I don't know how to say this, but I only know how to say it one way. Show me the money! And he might get this. The last two games, Dak has been balling. Actually, over the last two games, he got 674 yards passing and 7 touchdowns. Now, granted, that is against Washington and the Giants, which are not, the greatest teams. But here's the thing. The big thing, with Dak is that, and when that's with any athlete, is that if you do have a team, you don't play down to your competition. If you have a team that is not as good as you, playing down to your competition. And we talked about Dak throwing the ball, and he is obviously improved, upon that in these first two games. He got 7 touchdowns, like I said, almost 700 yards, in passing, and they're 2-0. And again, this hasn't been the Zeke Elliott show, not just yet. Actually, that might be this weekend when they go see the Dolphins. But Cowboys need to get into the office with him, I think, sooner than later, because if it continues, that thermometer, that price is going to keep going up, and he's going to be like, show me the money! You're going to have to show him the money. So that, you're going to pay him. But look, and I don't trust anything that the Cowboys say anymore after saying you weren't going to set the market for a guy like Zeke, and then you set the market. So if you're going to set the market for a running back, then you're going to set the market for a quarterback, because this is a quarterback league. And Tony Romo, he was there, but the struggle that you go through when you don't have a quarterback. Now, people say what they want about Tony Romo, but regardless, he was at least there. I mean, you had your Quincy Carters, you had your what's my man name? Second overall pick after Peyton Manning, Ryan. Why can't I remember his last name? But you guys know what I'm talking about. But you've had a series of quarterbacks, John Kitna. I mean, that goes on and on and on and on and on, and it looks like that you got your quarterback, for the next 10 years. So if you're going to set the market for Zeke, then you're going to set the market for a guy like Dak. And you just better hurry up, because he's just sitting there. Show me the money! Yeah. He's going to be looking for it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take another break. And then when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about some of these injuries that happened over week 2 that have maybe decimated some NFL teams. But I guess we'll find out when we talk about it. It's the Wait a Minute Show. Again, we'll be back after these words.
We don't take orders from super fools. We give them.
Give it to you. Any and all resistance will crumble. Nonsense. There's never been a threat Squad couldn't handle. It is the purpose of the Squad to align our infamous forces against the powers of good and defeat them, leaving us, the rulers of the world.
We all hate when we have unexpected car problems. Well, I'm here to tell you about a viable solution. Bay 11 Auto and my man Melvin. You have emission problems? Brakes need changing? Transmission slipping? Is your car just driving sluggish? No problem is too big. I live on the other side of town and I drive over an hour to a guy that I trust. Melvin is honest, dependable, and definitely not in the business to break your pockets. Come see the official mechanic, Melvin, at Bay 11 Auto. You will be glad you did. You can reach him at 1455 General Arts Road, Conyers, Georgia, or 404-295-5715. That's 404-295-5715.
All music artists, lend me your ear. Looking for that hot beat to make your next hit? Go to FaroJaroMusic.com. Tired of paying for overpriced studio time for mediocre beats? Go to FaroJaroMusic.com. FaroJaroMusic.com offers industry quality hip-hop, trap, R&B, and pop beats that will take your creativity to the next level. We know it's hard to find dope beats out there, so don't waste any more time searching YouTube or whack beat-selling websites. Go to FaroJaroMusic.com today to cop the beat for your next hit. Mixing and mastering services available too. Once again, go to FaroJaroMusic.com. That's FaroJaRo Music.com for the hottest beats in the game.
Yo, what's good? This is Trey Frazier on Phil Styles. This is the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. Make sure y'all tune in to us every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time.
Squad Network, the future of radio.
He's the brain of operations.
I'm telling you right now, book it!
And him, he's along for the ride. But together, they bring you sports like you've never heard before. The Wait a Minute Show, a new way of discussing today's trending sports topics. And now, back to the show with your host, Jolani J.B. Bodie.
Indeed, Lil Pan. Indeed. So we are back from the break, and we are still talking about football, and we're going to continue to talk about football. So earlier in the week, we had actually on week 2, we had some injuries, but we had some update to those injuries. And one guy we lost for the entire season, and another guy we've lost for 6 to 8 weeks, and that would be Drew Brees. So Drew Brees just had surgery today on a ligament in his thumb that he had to have surgery with because of concrete, you know, and I'll explain about the concrete in just a moment. But he had surgery today, so they said it's going to be a 6 to 8 week turnaround time before, you know, he plays. So that pretty much puts him probably like at week 10 when they come back from their bye week. So I think that's the night. Actually, I think that's Thanksgiving night here in the ATL when they play the Falcons. So that will be an interesting game if he does show up for that game, which I will be in the house for that one. So, I'll be excited. But now I mentioned concrete. And the reason I said concrete, so if you're watching the game, if not, Drew Brees actually, his hand collided with Aaron Donald's hand. And if you've seen Aaron Donald and if you've seen his hands, they're not made of flesh and they're not made of blood or anything like that. It is pure concrete. So it's like he smashed his thumb up against concrete, which is how he got the ligament damage at this point. So he stepped out of the game. Teddy Bridgewater stepped in, which I give Teddy credit. He stayed around in New Orleans because Miami did come calling. They said he could be the starter. So it might look like a good look that he stayed in New Orleans instead of playing for Miami, because this is his audition for the next 6 to 8 weeks for his next team. And I think, he'll be on another team next year. But back to the Brees injury is, what does this mean really for the New Orleans Saints? So challenges, let's just say that. You haven't been without Drew for an extended period of time. He hasn't missed a bunch of games. He has played hurt. You got your guy. I mean, we just saw it in week 1 against the Houston Texans. If you need someone to pull off some magic, that has been Drew Brees. So those are the challenges, that you have just in general. You have that leader, you have that veteran, you have that guidance, you have that wisdom that you're going to be losing. Now, you do have, again, Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater had some starting experience. And while he was in Minnesota, he had playoff experience. He did play in a playoff game while he was in Minnesota as well. So it's not like you're just going into a situation where Teddy Bridgewater is brand new to everything that's going on. The other thing that's going to be interesting, though, that Sean Payton brought up, because everyone was asking about Taysom Hill. And we know Taysom Hill, has been in certain packages, even last year, and he was in for some this year. So they have him as the backup quarterback. Sean Payton was, basically saying, hey, kind of like hinting, we're probably going to play with, two, quarterbacks. We're going to, do something. And I don't think that I think Taysom role will increase a little bit on this, where they will, utilize him out wide, but maybe he'll run some RPO a little bit more. But I think this is still really going to be, Teddy's team for the time being. I don't think you want to throw too many, gadget plays, that's in there. I don't know if you really want to put Taysom, in that situation. Now, the guy can play. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, anything like that, but you have a guy in Alvin Kamara that can run the ball. You have a guy in Michael Thomas at wide out. Now, how do these guys, fare? I think they will be all right. Will it be maybe the same production with Drew Brees like it was with Drew Brees? I don't think so. But I think they would do their part. They'll step their game up. It's more about where do you get it from guys like Ted Ginn and Traquan and Jared Cook. That is where you wanted to get these guys to step up and make a contribution to the team more than they normally would. They're going to be leaning heavily on their defense as well, because I just think that they're going to run the ball a little bit more than they already have with Kamara and with Latavius Murray. And they're not going to put, Teddy in a situation where he has to throw 50, 55 times like Drew would. They're not going to put him in, a situation where it doesn't cater to his skill set. So they will struggle at times. They will not be the favorite like they once were with a guy like Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees doesn't just go sit down and you say, well, we're all right. No, that's not the case. You got to give credit where credit is due. But this will challenge this team. I could see them going 400 in this stint. So if they're going 6 games or 8 games, that's 3-3 or 4-4. They may be one game over 500 while Drew Brees is out. But stay alive. Get ready for the second half of the season. You get him back, and they still can make some noise. It's just more of getting him back and in a position to where you still make the playoffs, and then you can make your run. Because all you got to do is just get to the playoffs. That's what this is about. Keep the team afloat and keep moving. So Drew Brees hurt, and what the Saints are going to do, they'll play decent football, but not on the level that, people are accustomed to them playing. Another quarterback that got hurt that's actually out for the entire season is Ben Roethlisberger. And he has an elbow injury that I was, I guess a lot of people probably was surprised, maybe. But I would say I was surprised because we're so used to Ben being hurt. We're so used to him playing hurt. And for him to come out the game and he was on the sideline and it looked like, it didn't look like he was just horrible pain or anything. But obviously, you don't want to go out there, giving people the impression that, you're just in agony. But he will be gone for the entire year. So this, to me, I think this is more of this is a different situation than the New Orleans, because I talked about Teddy Bridgewater, having starting experience. I talked about him having playoff experience. Mason Rudolph does not have that experience. So he will be more of a guy that is learning, on the go. They were trying to transition from not having Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, which obviously Le'Veon wasn't there last year, but Antonio was still there. So now they're doing this transition, with a young QB. He will be all right, but I do think that the Steelers' hopes and wishes of making the playoffs, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think they still will